Before we start, I've got something super spooky for you today. Imagine playing a horror game where you're a baby on a tricycle, navigating through eerie, spine-chilling environments. Intrigued? You can check out this terrifying adventure by wishlisting it on Steam. And guess what? You can play the first chapter for free. Don't miss out on the fright of your life. Head over to Steam and start your horror journey now. The link is in the description. At the beginning of the movie, a film is shown on a projector, depicting an excavation in the jungles of Mexico in 1963. During the excavation, many strange things are discovered. The scene then shifts to the present day, where we see a girl named Simona talking to a man on the phone. He tells her that her dad doesn't want to talk to her, and she asks if writing a letter to her dad would make a difference. Simona tells the man that she has been having bad dreams and just wants to leave, wishing things could go back to how they were. The man says he has to go to work now, and at that moment, the TV begins to distort. Simona notices footprints in the house, and only then does the phone disconnect and the footprints disappear right in front of her eyes. She hears noises from upstairs, which scare her, and she feels like someone has broken into her house. Suddenly, she sees a moth flying. A box slides into a room, and an entity appears behind her. The box slides towards her, and the entity attacks. And with her scream, we see a moth come to life, and the scene cuts abruptly. Next, we see Ambar, who has illegally immigrated to Cleveland from Mexico, and she supports herself with an under-the-table job and her savings. She looks for a cheap room to stay in, and we see that it's the same house where Simona died. The owner, Red, tells her that they have just taken over the place and are still fixing it up. Amber notices a girl and asks how many others live there. Red replies that she is the second tenant, with Freya being the first. Red shows Amber the room and asks for 1 month's rent up front. Amber hands him the cash, and Red tells her that if she needs anything else, he is on the top floor. That night, Amber listens to saved messages from her mom, and during this, she hears a woman sobbing. She checks and sees Freya crying in her room, who suddenly looks upwards. The next day, Amber encounters Freya and introduces herself, mentioning that Red said it's just the two of them, to which Freya says Red is full of shit and then leaves. Amber finds this strange and departs, and we see 2 ghostly figures inside the house. At work, Amber asks her co-worker Kinsey about the price of an ID. Kinsey tells her the price has gone up to $3,000. Amber says she previously quoted $1,000, to which Kinsey explains that if the birthplace is listed as Ohio, it still costs $1,000. Later, she visits her mom's cousin Beto's house. Beto mentions that he has referred Amber for a job, but reminds her not to forget to bring her ID with her. That evening, when Amber returns home, she hears some strange noises. Perplexed, she goes to that side to investigate and finds a locked door, and upon closer inspection, she notices scratch marks on the door. During this, Red intervenes, startling her, and he tells her that the basement is private. As he is leaving, Amber stops him and tells him that she needs her deposit back as something has come up, but he replies that he has already spent it on refurbishment, tools, and materials. Later, while checking her savings, Amber hears Freya crying again. Concerned, she knocks on Freya's door and asks if she is okay. However, when Amber opens the door to check, she finds that Freya is not there, but she notices a handprint on the doorframe. Confused, she leaves, and we see a ghostly figure in Freya's room. In a flashback, we see Amber with her ill mother in the hospital. Her mother asks her what is in the corner, and Amber notices a box there. After a while, an entity opens the box, causing Amber to wake up from her sleep in fear. The next day, Amber asks her boss for an advance payment, but he refuses, saying she is getting slower day by day. Amber insists, to which he says he will assign her to packing work just for today, and if she proves she is good for the job, he will pay her tomorrow. Amber agrees and starts working on the packing, but during this, a moth appears and someone grabs her neck, but it disappears when she turns around. Later, Kinsey suggests lending Amber the rest of the money, with the understanding that she can pay her back when she gets the job. Amber agrees, takes out her savings, and gives it to Kinsey, asking her to get it to her contact and secure the papers for her. Later, as Amber is returning home, we see the streetlights behind her turning off one by one, and then she hears a loud thump. Amber turns around to check, but sees nothing, and the streetlight above her begins to flicker, and she spots a moth stuck in it. Confused and scared, Amber leaves the area, and a ghostly figure appears, revealing itself to be her mother. Amber arrives home and hears banging sounds and a man muttering, and she discovers a man repeatedly banging his head on the basement door. Later, while Amber is in her room, she hears footsteps approaching. She sees someone turn on the light, and after a while, a man begins chanting something. The light then turns off, and the man bangs on her door before leaving a handprint on it. Amber goes to the common kitchen. She meets Maria and Petra, who have also recently moved in. Red arrives and asks Petra and Maria if they are ready to go up. As they leave, Amber asks Red about the man she saw downstairs, to which Red explains that the man is his brother Becker, and advises her not to worry about him. Later, Amber hears loud music coming from Maria and Petra's room, and then notices the door behind her creak open. Perplexed, she enters the room and discovers a tape recorder, and when she puts on the headphones, she hears a man discussing a ritual sacrifice. Removing the headphones, she sees strange artifacts and a photo of a couple with the man's face scratched out. She also finds a book on rituals, featuring a drawing of a ritual sacrifice, and notices a photo from 1963 showing a man with a woman and a box, the same box she saw in her dream. Suddenly, the tape recorder emits a loud screech, and a ghostly figure appears. The figure vanishes moments later, but reappears as Amber rushes out of the room. The next day, Amber tries calling Kinsey, but her calls go straight to voicemail, and she learns from her boss that Kinsey quit that morning. Amber asks for Kinsey's address, but her boss says he can't give it to her, and when Amber insists, he fires her. Amber realizes that Kinsey has run off with her money, and while she is taking a shower, she hears strange noises coming from the drain hole. Perplexed, she turns off the shower to listen more closely and realizes someone is crying for help. She then notices a woman approaching her, whom she thinks is Freya. However, when she pulls back the shower curtain, she finds no one there. Amber comes out and asks Red if he has seen Freya, and Red informs her that she moved out a couple of days ago. Confused as she begins to leave, Red mentions that with the new girls moving in, it's a bit easier for him now, so he can return her deposit tomorrow. Later, Amber listens to her mom's saved voicemails again and notices a moth flying around her room, whom she kills in frustration. She then turns around to listen to the voicemail, but is shocked to hear the clicking sound of the moth's wings. And when she turns around, she finds the moth alive. Suddenly, her mom's ghost haunts her, but it turns out to be a nightmare. However, to her shock, she discovers that the door to her room is open. The light outside turns off, and she hears a woman crying. Perplexed, Amber gets up to check and is horrified to see a ghostly figure standing outside. An invisible figure then moves towards her and stands on the other side of the room, saying, "Please don't." Amber realizes another invisible figure is present, and the first figure pleads, "Please, Mary, no." Mary's ghost responds that she must prepare her or Arthur will hurt them both. Mary then rushes towards the figure, and they both disappear, and terrified, Amber watches as Mary's ghost forcibly takes the other ghost away. Amber goes downstairs and finds the girl's ghost crying outside the basement. Carefully, she approaches the ghost, who looks up and says, "Please, Mary," and Mary's ghost is seen standing behind Amber. Now, before Amber can grasp what's happening, a hand drags the girl's ghost inside the basement. Amber returns to her room and calls Beto for help, and also explains that she can't call the police because she wasn't born in Texas, and asks if he can wire her some money. Beto says he can't, but will come to see her as soon as possible. Amber rushes to Red to get her deposit, but finds Becken there instead, and when she asks where is Red, he tells her that he will send him down when he gets back. Amber flees the boarding house and calls Red at a nearby diner, where he convinces her to return to the house, promising that he will give her the deposit refund there, as he don't have the cash at the moment. Once back at the house, Red tells Amber that the money is in her room. Scared, Amber goes to her room and immediately starts searching for the money. Red follows her, asking if she's sure she doesn't want a drink. When she inquires about her money, Red reveals his father used to dig up and collected strange artifacts and killed their mother. Amber tries to leave, but Red stops her, regretting her call and saying he would have returned her money if she hadn't left. He mentions Becker needs her and asks her to drink the wine. At that moment, Becker arrives, grabs the bottle from Red, and begins sprinkling wine around the room while chanting something. He then approaches Amber, who gets terrified and falls on a chair. Becker then forces her to drink the wine, causing Amber to collapse on the floor, gasping, and as she gets up, Red warns her not to leave, or Becker will make things much worse. A while later, Petra knocks on Amber's door and asks her to open it. Amber lets Petra and Maria in, and Petra suggests that they should stay together, and that they can't leave now, because Becker is downstairs, but he sleeps during the daytime. Amber asks if they think they are keeping other women in the basement, to which Petra says she don't know, but something is wrong with the place. Amber then asks what they have seen, and Petra reveals that she keeps dreaming about home. In her dreams, her son is there, but he has changed. She holds him tight and sees a stone box. Amber says she has seen it too, and Petra says she thinks the box is here in the basement. Later, Petra begins singing a song, and after a while, Amber sees the ghosts of many women in the room staring at her. When she looks at the bed, she finds that Maria and Petra are no longer there, and as she turns back, the ghosts of the women also disappear. Amber then sees her mother's ghost, who asks her to stay a little longer. Suddenly, Petra wakes her up, and realizing that Red and Becker are preparing to take them down, Amber tries to stop them, but Becker throws her against the wall. Just then, the doorbell rings, prompting Becker to throw Amber into a room and lock her inside. Meanwhile, Red answers the door, and Beto tells him he's looking for Amber. Red claims he doesn't know her, but Beto notices Amber's coat and realizes she must be inside. Amber then breaks a window glass to signal for help, and Beto forcefully enters the house to help her and rushes upstairs. But before he can open the door, Becker attacks and brutally assaults him. Becker then takes Maria downstairs, and when Amber asks Red why he is doing this to them, he tells her to be quiet and begins applying something to her body. He explains that he is trying to help his brother, and reveals that they moved back home because they couldn't afford Becker's medical bills. He wanted to convince their dad to let them stay for a while, but then they discovered what their dad had done to those girls. Their dad made their mom help him and then killed her too, and Red believes they did the world a favor by getting rid of their dad. He says he wanted to leave right after, but Becker said they could fix the place up. But just like Dad, he started spending more time with that box, thinking it chose him, and then he started getting better. Becker thinks he need a few more hits, and then they can stop all this. Amber tries to convince Red to leave with her, and he's about to free her, but only then Becker arrives, and Amber notices that Becker's injuries are healing. He then starts taking her to the basement, and as Amber screams for help, she sees the ghosts of the sacrificed women watching her. Becker throws Amber onto the basement floor and then drags away Maria's decapitated body. He then places Amber on a stone slab and ties her with chains. He then goes to the stone box, opens it, and chants something before leaving, and the stone box begins to resemble a tunnel. Amber pleads with Becker, but he tells her she should feel honored and leaves, shutting the door behind him. Amber then realizes that some kind of entity is approaching her from inside the box, and the room fills with moths. However, before the entity can emerge from the box, Beto bursts into the room and quickly unties her. They both try to force open the door, and soon after, the lights begin flickering, but they manage to open the door and enter a dark room. Amber then sees herself with her mother on her deathbed, but after a while, she hears a raspy breathing approaching her, and it is revealed that she is trapped in a dream. As a creature begins to come out of the box, Amber's mom asks, can she stay a little longer? At the same time, a large moth-like creature slowly emerges from the box and moves towards Amber. And then, it takes her head between its hands. In her dream, Amber's mother begs her to stay, but when Amber says no, her mother gets angry and begins to strangle her, insisting she needs to stay. Amber fights back, repeatedly saying no, causing the creature to release her and retreat. And in the dream, Amber suffocates her mother. Amber comes out of the dream state and notices the box's lid getting closed. She quickly rushes to open it, only to find the remains of a child inside, and then she closes the box. Now, as she comes out of the basement, She hears Petra screaming, and meanwhile, Becker feels something strange and asks Red to go check as his wounds are not healing. Amber approaches the room, and when Red opens the door to check, she attacks him with a macaw huitle. She then attacks Becker, but he overpowers her and breaks her leg. Grabbing the macaw huitle, Becker prepares to kill her, but Petra pushes him and tries to escape. However, Becker throws her over the balcony, killing her. He then returns to Amber and tries to choke her, but she fights back and slices his carotid artery with an obsidian blade from the makuahuit. She then grabs the makuahuit, knocks him down, and smashes his head with it. Amber brings Red downstairs, ties him to the stone table, and watches as the monster bites off his head. She then leaves the basement, locking the door behind her. And as she walks away, she passes Red, now a ghost like the other sacrificed women. As she starts to leave the house, her ankle, broken by Becker earlier, suddenly heals due to sacrificing Red to the monster. She stops, puts out her hand to let a moth land on it, then turns back towards the basement door, showing the same darkened, throbbing veins that Becker had. And the movie ends here. Thanks for facing the frights with us. If you survived this video, drop a like, summon that subscribe button, and brace yourself for more horror. Until next time, stay spooked.